Hey, what's up? Thanks for checking out another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
I'm DJ Keo. Thank you for joining us again.
Yes. Okay, so DJ Keo, we had some homework this week.
Let's talk about Love, Death, and Robots.
Okay.
Overall, what are your thoughts about this type of show? It's like 7-minute shorts from animation companies from all around the world. And it's led by Tim Miller and David Fincher, directors.
Mhm.
Uh, Tim Miller did Deadpool. David Fincher's done Seven, all the genius movies that's been out for the last couple
Right.
years.
Mhm.
David Fincher's involved in Gone Girl, one of my favorite movies. He's a brilliant director, and these guys got together because they were going to recreate the heavy metal uh, comic book into an anime series. Do you know about the heavy metal comic book and even the movie that came out like in the 70s?
I do. I mean, I wasn't like a heavy comic book reader, but I do. My cousin was a huge heavy metal sort of fan. We went to the movie together. I checked it out. That was a
Yeah,
very
that movie was wild.
it
That
was
movie
like
was wild.
for the time it was pretty wild. We went to the theater to
Yeah,
check that
yeah.
out too. It was pretty wild for the time, and it was pretty innovative too for the time. I
Oh,
mean,
the
to put
music
something like
soundtrack is
that, yeah,
ridiculous.
to put something like that in the theater, that was pretty crazy. Well, this is what I think about Love, Death, and Robots. We spoke about this last week. How we think that
Mm,
movie studios and theaters are done, right? What
yeah,
this does
it can be
is
hard.
this genre, not genre, but this format, it basically says, hey, these companies, these animation production houses, right? Now you have a vehicle to actually have your content up on like the number one streaming service, Netflix, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
sort of disruptive, right? So it's just like, okay, we can do this. We don't have to like try to sell what we're trying to do to a huge movie studio. We can just submit these like little shorts and then take it from there. So I like this here. I like this format. I think that's where, because studios and
Mhm.
theaters are basically done, this is where like looking at new content is it's all about streaming. So now these
Yeah.
companies have the ability to go to these streaming companies and say, "Hey, we have a product, take a look at it, get picked
Mhm.
up, get paid, everyone eats." I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think that streaming services is definitely going to be the future here. Losing cinema for a year and a half was a huge change culturally
Yeah.
for North America. And I can't speak for, rest of the world because China still has movies going on right now. And they're like the bulk of the movie going. But like North America, it kicked the knees underneath the entertainment industry, and especially concerts, all that stuff. And even for us DJs, it knocked the wind out of us. So you had to go and create content, and you need content as soon as possible. And this is a byproduct of that. We need content quick, and this is some cool stuff that we can kind of advertise our animation houses and our studios and just showcase what we're capable of. And these short stories they're amazing.
They're
Because you
pretty
gotta think about,
amazing,
like,
aren't they?
you have 7 seconds to tell what you could tell in an hour and 30 minutes for a movie or a series of 10 shows or whatever. They get that down to 7 seconds or
Or if
seven
you
seven minutes.
or if you HBO, if you're HBO Max, a
Mhm.
5 hour movie down, like you squish it down to 7 minutes.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
7 minutes. 7
Yeah.
minutes. They got everything in there. You got your antagonists, you got your heroes, you got your story arc. They did
Yeah.
the world building. They did everything in 7 minutes. This is
It's pretty cool,
phenomenal.
man. Pretty amazing. So we checked out the first two episodes of the second season of Love, Death, and Robots. Um, the first episode was something called Animated Customer Service. Now, this is pretty wild. This is by the production company is called Meat Department. It's a French company. And if you go to
Mhm,
their Vimeo channel, man, they have a lot of amazing stuff. This
mhm.
animation studio like Meat Department, again out of France. Very interesting company, Very interesting concept, highly technical. It's all sort of animated stuff, just like automated customer service. What do you think about that episode, which
I'll
was
say this.
pretty amazing?
I'll say this. I love the story. The the skin textures and stuff was so creepy but
Yeah.
interesting. It was engaging. Like it felt like the designs of the people and not even the animals, but the designs of the people was so creepy. But I was like, I got to see what's going to happen next. So the storyline is there's a robot uprising and the people in this retirement village or town somewhere, it looks like Florida. They discover that the robots are going to kill everybody,
Yeah.
and this old lady's in her house with her cat and her vacuum machine.
Mhm.
And yeah,
She had a
it
dog,
is a
actually, a
wow.
little puffy
Oh yeah, it's
dog.
a dog.
Mhm.
Sorry, it's a
Mhm.
dog. Yeah, and yeah, so the the premise is anything with computers and robots. I love just right off the bat. I love
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
But I thought it was just it was engaging. Like I could watch a movie of that, the whole thing. Just how the uprising started, where it came from. You know, it reminded me of Cocoon. It kind
I
of
do.
reminded me of, like the old people are just trying to make their way, doing their thing. But like, it had some cool vibes to it. I don't know. This is really interesting. What'd you think about the short?
I think that it sort of reminded me a little bit of iRobot with Will Smith.
Mhm.
Just like robots taking over.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's basically what this was. It was just like, this woman, this older woman, and again, this retirement assisted living community.
yeah,
She was trying to, just, I guess, like just do some troubleshooting on her robot, and it just, went off because she pressed some like really weird buttons on the phone. And so it just started to attack her and basically wanted to kill her. Um,
yeah.
so there are a lot of movies out there that sort of allude to the fact that robots could take over. I mean, once robots are included into basic life, then at some point
Mhm.
they would be so smart, they would become so smart that they would eventually take over the world, right? And
Yeah.
that's what this one was like in 7 minutes.
You know what?
So
To
I,
the
I
the
like that.
premise the premise is usually for robots is that they look at humans as being a virus or something that's out of control, and that you kind of got that vibe of the robots need to take over because of something like that. They
Yeah.
feel like humans are the problem in some capacity. And
Hmm.
it's the same thing with the Matrix, the same concept. iRobot is similar vibe
The
to it as well.
Invincible,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Invincible,
sort of the
yeah.
same thing. It's
Hmm.
isn't it weird that when you look at a lot of these movies and these shorts that speak about world domination and or world destruction, it's all
Hmm.
based on a world like here, just like the people and everything that people are doing in power. It's just bad. So people have to come down or robots have to take over because humans, we're just like we don't know what's going on. So a machine has to take over. So
Yeah.
is that you know when you see a lot of stuff like that, it's almost like Minority Report. It's like, oh, like 10 years later we have iPads and all this other stuff, right? You ever watch an Amazon show called Betas? Or I'm sorry,
No, I don't.
Betas.
Betas? No, I don't think so.
So Betas is almost like Silicon Valley on HBO. It's like this tech
Okay.
startup, yada yada
Oh, okay,
yada.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen Silicon Valley. I didn't know they had a offshoot on Amazon. Okay.
and Amazon did it, and it's done now because and they basically had a way to for you to get faster internet, people to do things a lot faster.
Mhm.
However, to get around that and to make this super fast, they had to create an algorithm that would basically just basically destroy the world, right?
Mhm.
And so when this thing was supposed to go live, they were like, we can't do that because we would destroy the world. So they just, canned it and everything else. I think that stuff like that, um, is it possible? Sure, it's possible. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about programming, we're talking about code, we're talking about software. Sure, something like that is possible. Something can go crazy. So that was a pretty interesting episode. What do you think about just how the assisted living community was, people there sitting down.
And he's
Everything was
automated.
controlled by, it was completely automated. What do you think that says about, like, you know, getting old, growing old, and moving into moving into
Well, it's the
these like
thing though.
assisted facilities?
It's kind of like Wally, where you have the robots to do all the heavy lifting for you and do all the basic stuff for you to live your life, whatever.
Hmm.
And we're not that far away from it. I say 20, 30 years, maybe they're gonna have some kind of robots. I don't know if we're still doing Moore's law. I think it kind of failed a couple years ago, but
Hmm.
transistors and computer chips are doubling in power for the last couple of decades, and
That's
they've
true.
gotten pretty powerful, and they've gotten pretty fast. So the advancements in robots, like you could see the Boston Dynamics stuff,
Yeah.
the stuff they're doing at DARPA with the dog.
Yep.
They were using that for the pan- pandemic.
Yeah.
And people they panicked and complained, and they're like, yeah, we're stop using the dog. Like, but that thing is creepy, but it's there already. Like, it's almost there. The thing could flip over, it could retrieve stuff. It's got, same thing like your drones, or
Hmm.
people fly around with drones from DJI. Like, it's got the sensors to tell how close you are to something. It's kind of getting a 3D sense of it.
Yeah.
Even, we were talking about Xbox before we started recording, but Xbox had a camera that they put on top of your TV that kind of gives you a 3D sense of your room, and it can kind of tell where you are, and the camera will move around. And iPad is doing similar stuff like that. Like, we're not that far away
No, we're
from
not.
actually needing something like that, or that even becoming a reality. Like, I think iRobot is the tail end of 30 years from now, but
Hmm.
still, from where we are today, it half of your life is controlled by the cloud. Honestly, if you think about it, your
Yeah.
your
Listen,
date book, I don't
Jeff
want to get too
Bezos and
conspiratorial,
Amazon
but
AWS, forget about it. I'm telling you, he has like crazy
yeah, yeah.
control. I don't know if you listen to, there is like just a sci-fi sort of production company, and also a
Mm,
YouTube channel. They also have a channel on Roku's live TV as well called Dust. And
okay.
they also have a podcast, and they have a podcast called, one of the episodes of one of the seasons of the podcast is called Crystallis. And it's
Mm,
about an AI. It's about like some sort of a military mission, but a ship, sort of a spaceship, just sort of falls apart, or just goes bad, and this AI inside the ship repairs
mm,
it and starts building all of these other sort of like defense ships around it, and the AI is just setting things up so that other AI can run all this stuff. And then the next thing
mm.
you know, they have this like huge sort of like battle force in space, and they're like, attacking other sort of like countries, I mean, other planets and things like that. It's a very interesting podcast.
That
And
sounds super interesting.
dude, I
That's
started
right up my
listening to
alley.
it. It's 14 episodes or 16. And I started listening to it, and I was like, oh, I had to, like, you just had to go to the next one and the next one and the next
Mm.
one. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I'm gonna send you a link about that. But
Yeah, yeah. Send it to me. That's
just
right up my
wrapping up.
alley. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely cool. Just wrapping up the Love and Robots. I'm sorry, Love, Death and Robots, season
Mm,
2, episode number 1, automated
mm.
customer service. What sort of rating would you give it?
I love the story. I would
Mhm.
say at least a 9 or a 8 out of 10. I love the story. This is fascinating. Now it is grotesque looking
Yeah,
and kind of wild. So,
mhm.
but I still rate it high. I thought it was great. I thought it was
Me
really
too.
good. It,
I
it set the
actually,
it set the tone for the show.
yeah, I gave it a 9. I really like it. I like
Mm,
I like the tech behind how it was made. I also like the tech story. Um,
mm,
I also like the story of evolution. Just in terms of maybe it's 2050 or 2060, and this is how
yeah.
things will look like in these sort of like assistant living communities, and people sleeping on golf carts and things of that nature. And I gave it a 9. It was pretty cool.
I think that is more realistic about the overthrow of the planet from robots. It's
Yeah.
gonna be your vacuum cleaner. It's not gonna be
I
a
I
T-800.
vacuum or whatever. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a vacuum cleaner. It's not gonna be Arnold in the T-800 body or whatever.
We also watched the second episode. This episode, this was pretty interesting. This is I sort of like this. I like this style of animation. You know, what do you think about? First of all, what was the second episode, Ice, all about?
So it's about this family that is on another colony on a different planet, and I guess it's a kind of a farming planet where
Right.
they farm ice, or they're getting some kind of minerals out of the ice,
Mhm.
and it's telling the story of the kids from the family that works there on this ice facility. And the thing that was really interesting about it is because one of the kids is augmented to be able to live in this environment, and the other one chose not to
He was
or
unmodded.
didn't want to. Yeah, he's unmodded.
Right.
So
Hmm.
you can see like one kid's got a coat on, and he's super cold, and the other one's got a t-shirt on. He got got just a regular tank top on, and is running in the ice where everyone's shivering and freezing.
Right.
And like it's kind of a tale of the have and have nots in
Yeah.
society,
Hmm.
where you look at there's a society where because they had like people who weren't working that are living on this planet, they're just on the side of the road, whatever.
Hmm.
And then you have these kids that are, I guess, they're haves. They're part of the families that have there, and they're all augmented and they're just playing games out there on the field. The story is kind of cool because it kind of it gives you the idea of like you can overcome stuff, depending on determination and like your struggle, you can overcome things. You don't need to have things to make it happen. It's
Hmm.
about how hard you work and how bad you want it. So I thought that overall is a good interesting take on that kind of story. What did you think about it? What did you think about the episode?
This is a another episode of the Love, Death, and Robots. Again, this is called Ice. I really like it. Like I said, I like that style of animation. It's almost like it's punkish. You know, it's sort of
Yeah.
cool. The way the people in the series was shaped. You know, I
It,
mean,
re- it reminds me of that Zima one from season one. I think it's Blue Zima or something like
I gotta
that.
check that out. I gotta check
That's
that out. But
it's kind of similar into that vibe.
this is Robert Valley. He was the showrunner. And also, they had a few writers here. Tim Miller was like one of the writers as well. I guess he's doing everything.
I think him and Fincher executive produced everything
Wow, that is
because
amazing.
it's their baby.
I want to know, yeah, so I thought this was actually pretty cool, very interesting, very intriguing. Also, there was a rebellion, about it, just teenagers doing something that they were not supposed to do. Um, but here's the thing. So when the unmodded, brother was, just hanging out with the brother who was, just enhanced, and they came upon these, their friends, they were like playing hacky sack and they were just all up in the air. It was like crazy, right? So how did
Yeah,
they
yeah.
know that this guy who was not who was unmodded, how did they know he was unmodded? Was it because he had a jacket on? Because these people
I think
living in the code, they didn't have any jackets on or anything like
I think
that.
they knew that that's his brother or something like that. I think
Okay.
most likely they probably talked. I don't know. I don't know if it could be like a plot hole. I'm not sure. I have to rewatch it, but I think they kind of knew they knew who the brother was. So
Mhm.
I'm assuming that they just knew that the other guy was too. That he
Th-
tagged along.
this is it kind of feels like sometimes with these love, death, and robots shows that maybe Netflix is saying, oh, you know what? That's a good show right there. Let's make that into an animated series. I think that this Ice
Mhm.
could be an animated series, right? I think that they can do a season or two, and just sort of like
Yeah.
expand it out a little bit because it's sort of interesting. Like, you know, how did these people get here? What is ice? And why are we
Mhm.
mining this? I mean, that seems like that would be a really compelling sort of like show to watch. I want to see more of this. I hope they do more of this sort of ice episode because it was really cool. I mean, again, like I said, I like that style of animation. That is like it's so if when you look at anime and sometimes you get the sort of regular stuff like the teenager
Yeah, yeah,
like doing all that stuff, like crying. And it's just like, oh my goodness, okay, here we go with the person, with the laughter and everything. But
yeah.
this
I,
sort
I
of
I like people being cool. Do cool stuff. Like
and
we need
this
that.
is this animation is sort of edgy. I like that. It's an edgy
Mhm.
sort of style of animation. I like that. So I was immediately into it, immediately intrigued. I mean, you had these like weird sort of like wells or whatever they were called just popping
Yeah,
up out of the ice. Um,
yeah.
and
Like
it
I
was it
think
was
that
cool.
part of the lure for the Love, Death, and Robots thing is that all of these things I could actually watch.
Yeah.
If they turned into some kind of series, I would watch them.
Yeah.
A lot of there's very few that I was like, I'm not that interested in, but like it was still the story is compelling enough that I would want to finish.
Yeah. Mhm.
But like they had a lot of good episodes in season one. They had one about these guys are on a planet and there's like a mad invasion, and like just the little stuff like that. I could watch like all this stuff is right up my alley. And I could totally watch a whole series on it. Like all this stuff was really cool. I love it. I love the sci-fi element. I love the robot stuff. I definitely love the space stuff, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about some later episodes as well. But definitely the each of the universes that they've created in these little shorts, I wish that they get some more love and maybe they can expand upon it on Netflix.
I even watched, and you can, the thing about the Love, Death, and Robots is you can just jump around, because they're all sort of
Hey,
like, their own sort of thing. So that was pretty cool. I did end up watching like the third show, which was a show called Pop Squad,
that's the one
which
with the kids. That
was,
was dark and depressing.
that was,
That was
we're not,
pretty dark.
we'll talk about that at another time, but and then
Yeah, yeah.
there's another one later on down like the last episode as well. All this stuff, man, it's pretty cool. Okay, so check it out. Ice from Love, Death and Robots. This was the season 2, the second show. How do you rate it?
I give it a 7.5. I like the story. I wanted to know more about that world, but you only got 6 or 7 minutes to do stuff, so
Right.
you have to cut and get right to the point. But
Mm.
I definitely want to see more of that world. Like I want to know why they're there, where are they farming, what are these people doing? That why'd you get augmented? All that kind of stuff. I want to know what's Earth like back home. That's
Right.
one of the things about Avatar that was interesting is that you got to see what Earth was like in the
Mm.
extended cut. It's like
Right.
5 hour long movie, but like you got to see what Earth is like and why people would even bother going to this Pandora type planet.
Mm.
And it's same thing here. Like, why on earth would people leave, your home planet to go to this place that seems unhospitable? Like, what makes you want to do something like that? So, I wish they expanded the universe. So, what did you think about it?
I gave it a 6, and mostly for the same reason. They sort of started the show almost like in the middle of something, right? It's just like,
Mhm.
again, I felt like a lot was missing. It's just like,
Mhm.
okay, what is ice? Why do they need it? Right? Why are these
Yeah.
people here? How did they get here? Right? How did they get outside of, this area where they lived onto this like ice sheet? I mean, like it seemed like there was a lot of stuff missing, which makes
Mhm.
me hope that they may think about expanding this a little bit because they sort of came in the middle somewhere and showed us this like little 7 or 8 minute like short film. So that's why I gave it a 6. I mean, I like the animation style. I would
Mhm.
watch this if it were a series or a movie. I think they
Yeah.
have to give us more, which is why I gave it a 6.
Yeah. Could you see any of these shows like being a live action version, or it needs to be animated?
Um, I think Ice would probably um have to be, in my, just my thought. I think Ice would have to remain animated. I think you could do something with automated customer service. That would be a
Mhm.
huge production, though. I mean,
Yeah,
because
that'd
you're
be a
talking,
lot.
you're
That would
talking
be a
about
lot.
bringing in these animated things and also using technology and sort of
Yeah, it would
like
be expensive.
code and everything, and it would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
really expensive to do something like that. Because I can't imagine, like, I don't even know how much a movie like iRobot costs, but I think that
Yeah,
was like a
at
really
least
expensive movie. You know?
at least 150 because it came out a while ago. Like
Yeah.
the inflation hit the studios, and now everything starts at 200.
Hmm.
But like a movie like iRobot is like at least 120, 150 million, I
Yeah.
think.
That's wow. That's that
Everything
is
starts at 200 now. Everything before that, I
everything.
think the Titanic and maybe Lord of the Rings was like two. I think Lord of the Rings was like 230. I can't remember. I can't remember the exact
See,
thing.
that seems
But
pretty cheap to me. Like
well,
iRobot
cause
costing about 150 million. That seems like very inexpensive.
yeah, but what they could do back then was very limited to there's no limits today. There's zero
Yeah,
limits.
that's
You can do
true.
whatever
It's
you
true.
want.
Hmm.
And it's gonna look as good and as real as what it would have been if it was practical. So I mean, what you're capable of now, it kind of makes people think that well, we can make a volcano. Let's put a volcano in there. What the hell? It's another 20 million. Just go for it. Like,
Okay, here you go. Here's a bag for you. Just do that for me. I'll leave you guys here for a
yeah,
couple weeks to build that
yeah.
out for me. There you have it, folks. Another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I'm Basil Barrington.
DJ Keo, thank you for watching.
Yes, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And until next time, peace.
All right.